At her best friend's funeral, a woman was handed a note from the deceased. After reading it, she learned a shocking secret that turned her life upside down. Ruth stood in front of the mirror. She was already ready. All that was left was to put her shoes and grab her bag, and she was good to go. She wasn't late yet, but she already had to go out. But she couldn't take her eyes off her reflection. She hated the color black, but it didn't matter today. Ruth was wearing a knee-length black dress and black tights. On top, she threw on a black jacket. Her dark hair was pulled up into a tight ponytail. There was hardly any makeup on her face, and she put no lipstick on her lips. She held sunglasses in her hands. They would hide her sad eyes and tears, and she would be crying today because her best friend was gone, and she was going to go to see her off for the last time. God, how unfair it was, because Amanda was still so young. She and Ruth were almost the same age, only about 2 years apart. Is it possible to leave at the age of 34? No, it shouldn't be like that. Why? Why? She was almost never sick. Why did her heart suddenly stop? Or was she seriously ill, just hiding it from everyone? Ruth didn't know. She didn't know anything. It was just that Amanda was no longer in this world, and in a couple of hours, Ruth would be seeing her off to her last journey. Ruth took a deep breath, trying not to cry. She smoothed her dress with her hands, which was already ironed to the point of obscenity. Well, time to go. Ruth put on her glasses, grabbed her bag, and left the house. There were so many people in the cemetery that Ruth was confused. She didn't know almost anyone. Amanda had no relatives. Well, she always told her so. Only her aunt was a relative, but she didn't come. Even though they were best friends, Ruth never fully knew Amanda's lineage. She used to live in the country. Her parents had died, and she had inherited a small house, but Ruth had never been there. Ruth didn't even remember the exact name of the village itself. Amanda had maybe only talked about it a few times during their friendship, so Ruth didn't even remember. They didn't have mutual friends. They had been best friends since the Institute, but they had always had different companies, and life had separated them for so many years once. Ruth only saw one familiar person. It was Amanda's cousin. She was someone she knew. She was the daughter of Amanda's aunt. Ruth said hello to her. Margaret wanted to say something, but she changed her mind. She looked carefully at the crowd of people who had come to say goodbye to the deceased. "She had so many friends. I didn't even know," muttered Ruth, turning to Margaret. The woman looked at her and answered quietly. "Amanda had very few friends. There were only some of her business acquaintances, her employees. You could say that you were the only one she had been close to her. And these people, these were all her housemates." Amanda left a note asking. She wanted everyone in the house where she lived to be invited to her funeral. I don't know why she had such a desire. Maybe it was because she had been a bit lonely in her life and had never been surrounded by many friends and relatives. Maybe she wanted a whole crowd around her on a day like this. I don't understand what this is all about. It seems to me that it's just you and me here grieving and a couple of her coworkers and everyone else. Look at their faces. They just came in for a free meal and a drink afterwards, but I couldn't resist her request. After all, it was her last wish. Margaret wiped away her tears and walked away, and Ruth wondered. So Amanda knew she was going to die, because she had written a note asking her to do so. So she must have been hiding some illness. Why didn't she tell her? Ruth would have helped her. She wouldn't have left her alone. They can fought for her life together. What happened to her? Why didn't she tell her anything? When it was over, Ruth took a long time to come to her senses. The clatter of the falling clods of earth hitting the coffin lid was still in her head, and then she could not take her eyes off the nimble workers deftly wielding shovels. When it was all over, when a hill was formed on which large wreaths were placed on top, Ruth felt a shiver. She thought she was going to faint, but she didn't. Only her heart kept trembling inside, and Ruth knew that the pain of losing her friend would never subside. For now, Ruth was all alone. When Ruth was on her way home, Margaret stopped her. "I need to talk to you. Let's go away. I don't want any witnesses." They moved away from curious ears and eyes, and Ruth looked curiously at Amanda's cousin. Margaret pulled a white envelope with no writing on it from her purse. She held it in her hands for a while and then handed it to Ruth with the words, "Take it. It's for you." Ruth turned the envelope in her hands in perplexity, examining it from all sides. "What is it?" Margaret shrugged, but it came out somehow strange. It was impossible to tell whether Margaret didn't know what was in the envelope or whether she just didn't want to discuss it. "I was supposed to give you this letter. Amanda wrote it, and it was for you. I haven't read it. Amanda said I should give it to you if she was suddenly gone. That was about 3 months ago. I think Amanda knew something was going to happen to her, so she gave it to me. I asked her what was wrong with her. Why did she start thinking about things like that? But she just laughed and said anything could happen. I didn't pay any attention to it, if I had known." Margaret wiped away her tears, said goodbye to Ruth, and walked away from her. Ruth stared at the envelope. She wanted to open it right now, but restrained herself. If it was Amanda's last letter, she should read it at home. She didn't want to burst into tears right there in front of all these strangers. An hour later, Ruth was home. She did not even undress, threw her bag on the threshold, and went into the living room. She climbed onto the sofa with her feet and slowly opened the envelope. Inside were 2 pieces of paper. Ruth immediately recognized the neat handwriting of her best friend. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me anything, Amanda? If nothing could help you, at least I could have been there for you," whispered Ruth sorrowfully. She sighed, tried to calm down, and then began to read the letter. "My dearest Ruth, you know how much I love you and what you mean to me. If you are reading this letter now, I am gone. I'm sorry I haven't told you anything about my health. You see, I know that you would have made me do everything possible, would have made me fight to the end. But I didn't need that anymore. The chances of survival were so slim that I would have just suffered longer. I made my choice, my dear. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I'm also sorry for the things I had to hide from you for years. And that's something you're sure to hate me for, I know. But when I tell you why I did it, maybe you won't hold it against me. I made a choice once. Maybe it was wrong, but it's too late to talk about that now. I just want to confess to you that I—" Ruth read the letter, and her face grew paler and paler with each line she read. When she reached the end of the letter, she could no longer hold back her tears. How could you? How is it possible, Amanda? Why didn't you confess everything? After all, everything could have been different. Why did you sacrifice yourself for me? You could have lived your life differently. Why did you do that?" Ruth cried for a long time. The letter was lying in her lap. When she finally calmed down, she picked up the letter again. She read it over again. A whole gamut of feelings flashed across her face. Anger, resentment, confusion, indecision, anger again, bitterness, and confusion again. Finally, determination froze on her face. She already knew what she had to do. The only thing was how Ethan would react to it. After all this concerned more him than her. How to tell him? how to tell him about everything. Ruth and Amanda met during their first year at the Institute. They shared a room in a dormitory. Ruth was only 18 and had entered the Institute right after high school. While the 20-year-old Amanda didn't manage to get in right after high school, she didn't succeed until the third time. They became friends right away. Though a country girl, Amanda was the closest thing she had to a city girl. The girls were best friends. At first, they both didn't think about boyfriends because they both had the same goal: to study well and graduate with honors from college. At first, they spent all their free time studying. It was not until 6 months later that they became more social. They began going out with their classmates, but Amanda still preferred going out with Ruth than with other guys. She often refused noisy company, citing fatigue or something else. She also often went for walks in the park, which was nearby. It was on one of those walks that she met a young man. Violent feelings flared up between them. Amanda fell in love without a memory. It seemed to her that the guy did too. It wasn't until a month later that she told her best friend that she had a young man and loved him very much. Ruth was offended at the time. "Why didn't you say anything for so long? Shame on you. It's called best friend. That's it. I'm mad at you." Of course, Ruth was exaggerating. Naturally, she wasn't offended by her best friend. Everyone should have something private that belonged only to him, and everyone was entitled to a secret. It was up to the individual to decide whether or not to tell anyone about it. If Amanda said so, it meant she was serious. Okay, I'm not offended. Tell me who he is. Does he love you? Have you had a relationship yet? Tell me quickly. I'm so interested," Ruth gibbered. Amanda thoughtfully twirled a lock of long blonde hair in her hands. "He's wonderful. I think he loves me a lot, too. And yes, we were close. Oh, you'll see him yourself soon. I'll introduce you soon. Just wait a little while. You'll find out." Amanda didn't tell her the guy's name or age. She didn't even have any pictures of him. Ruth decided she would wait until Amanda introduced them. But time passed, and the acquaintance never took place. Ruth began to notice that Amanda was often sad and thoughtful, and one night she even came crying. Then Amanda told Ruth that she had broken up with her boyfriend. "He said he didn't love me anymore. He said he had met someone else, and that girl had captured his heart, and that he wanted to be with me but can't control a person's heart. And he was honest with me. He just decided to be honest. He broke up with me so he could go out with another girl with a clear conscience. Ruth, I can't believe it. I loved him so much. Why does this happen in life? How am I supposed to get out of this situation now?" Ruth wanted to do something to support her friend. "Forget about him. If he doesn't love you, then let him go to someone else. It's a good thing nothing serious has happened yet, or he could have left you in a worse situation. It's better that way. I can't believe he's so honest. He's confessed to everything. Amanda, don't cry. You're lucky it turned out this way. It's better to break up now than to be deceived and abandoned later. Consider that you parted by mutual consent. You will meet a nice guy who will carry you in his arms, marry him, and have a bunch of kids with him." Amanda stared silently at the ceiling. She whispered, "I'm going to have a lot of babies. Yes, I'll give birth to a bunch of babies." Ruth tried every day to cheer her friend up. After a month, Amanda seemed to have recovered a little from the hard breakup, and then Ruth confessed to her. "I had wanted to tell you for a long time, but I was still afraid to admit it. You were so sad. I was afraid you'd be so sad when you saw how happy I was. But now I see that you're starting to come around, and I want to share with you. You see, I met this guy. Amanda, I think he's the one. I'm so in love with him. Honestly, I fell in love with him at first sight, and I think he's crazy about me, too. You should see the way he looks at me, as if I were his only one in the world. We've known each other for 2 months, but we only started dating a month ago. I don't know why he waited a month. We met many times in the general company. I saw the way he looked at me. Anyway, we are dating, and he already says he wants to be with me all the time. Can you imagine, Amanda? He's probably hinting that he wants to marry me." Amanda watched her best friend with a sad smile. It was ironic. Amanda had broken up with her boyfriend a month ago, and Ruth at the same time had met her love. Everything in this world is relative. "I really want you guys to meet. We're going for a walk in the park today. Will you come with me? We'll have a little chat, take a walk, and then we'll go home. You will come with me, won't you? Please, I'm begging you. I so want you two to meet." Amanda agreed. If she had known how this acquaintance would turn out for her, what emotions she would experience, she would have packed her bags and left at once. She would leave the city, leave forever, never to see anyone again. But Amanda didn't know. In the evening they went to the park. Ruth's boyfriend hadn't come yet. The girls were sitting on a bench and chatting, and then did a loud shout, addressing someone. "Hey, we're here, come here." And then she whispered to Amanda, "There he is. That's my boyfriend, Amanda." Amanda seemed to be in some kind of slow motion, and as she turned around for a long time, her gaze focused on the guy, and she blinked slowly. She stared at the guy, who came right up to them, and the guy was staring at her, and Ruth nimbly kissed him on the cheek, and then quickly mouthed Amanda, "Let's meet. This is Ethan. This is my boyfriend. Ethan, this is Amanda, my best friend, and the most wonderful person in the world." Amanda looked at Ethan. Silently, she could not utter a word. Ethan was also silent. Only Ruth babbled on and on. "What is it with you that you're so gloomy? As if I introduced you by force? What happened? Did you already know each other?" Ethan opened his mouth to answer, but Amanda preceded him. "No, of course not. We do not know each other. That's right. Very nice to meet you, Ethan. Ruth told about you so much that I feel as if I've known you for a long time." Ethan muttered, "Me too. Nice to meet you, too." "Oh, I'll probably leave you two alone. I remembered what I needed. Anyway, never mind. I'm going to go, and you go for a walk. Here's just want to tell you, Ethan, do not hurt my friend. For the sake of her well-being, I'm ready for anything. I will destroy anyone who even a word causes her pain. Do you understand? I'm very glad that you make my friend happy. She's glowing. Be happy. I'm happy for you. And you two are very compatible. Okay, well, I gotta go." And Amanda left. When Ruth got back to the dorm, Amanda was gone. There was only a note in which Amanda told her that she had something wrong and she had to go urgently to the village. It took Ruth a couple of weeks to get in touch with her friend. It turned out that Amanda had left the institute, or rather, not dropped out, but took a leave of absence for family reasons. It concerned her aunt, her only relative. Amanda said that she would be in the countryside for about a year, and then she would return to the city to take care of her aunt, and the girl would not leave her. As much as Ruth insisted on coming and helping her friend, she strongly disagreed. No, study, mind your own business. I'll be fine. I'll see you later. I can't right now." Ruth wanted to come visit her friend later, but Amanda wouldn't even give her address. They hadn't seen each other in 5 years. Amanda never went back to the institute. They called each other back, but on the whole, their communication was not so close anymore. Everything had changed. During those 5 years, Ruth managed to marry Ethan. She graduated institute with honors, and they wanted to have a baby right away, but it did not work out for a few months. Then Ruth went to a doctor. After many examinations, it was found out that she had a congenital pathology due to which Ruth could never become a mother. This was a terrible blow for the girl. No matter how much Ethan comforted her and that it was not the main thing, she could not take this news calmly. She had a nervous breakdown over it, and then she decided that they could not be with Ethan together. She decided to divorce him. "You deserve a better woman. You need a real woman, not me. You need someone who can give you children. I can never make you happy. I can no longer be with you." No matter how much Ethan consoled her, no matter how much he persuaded her, Ruth stood her ground. Their family life was over. They divorced, and Ethan immediately left for another city to be away from the place where he could not be happy. Almost immediately after their separation, Ruth called her friend and told her everything. Amanda was already at her place 3 days later. After such a long separation, Ruth hardly recognized her friend. She had changed so much, had become so mature, as if she had had to endure some serious ordeal, and she was so thin but fit. Amanda was able to pull Ruth out of the worst condition. She stayed in the city. Sometimes she would go to the village, but not for long. She would come back to the city each time. She rented an apartment. She never got married. She said she didn't need to. After a while, Amanda started a small business. She opened a vegetable store, so to speak. It was very popular because only high-quality products were always sold there. Business was booming. Ruth started a new life. Of course, she continued to love Ethan and did not need other men, but she no longer considered herself a woman who someone could love. She still considered herself a freak, too. Ruth was snapped out of her memories by a phone call. It was Margaret. "Did you read the letter?" Ruth closed her eyes and answered, "You knew everything?" "Yes, I knew. She made us promise never to say anything, and I'm glad you found out. It's too bad it didn't happen until after she left. But it was her choice. Ruth, you have to go." Ruth frowned. "I'll think about it." She gave her the right to decide for herself. "I'll go to the village tomorrow to meet her. God, I can't believe it. How could she have hidden this for so many years? Maybe she made a mistake, but it was her choice." "Go, my mother is waiting for you," Margaret answered. The next evening, Ruth was already in the village where Amanda was born and where she had lived for those 5 years when she left the institute. Ruth looked again at the address written in the letter. Yes, it's here. Ruth stood in indecision for a few more minutes. She could not muster the courage to open the wicket. And then the door to the house opened, and an elderly woman came out. She stared at Ruth, and then she shouted, "Ruth!" Ruth realized that it was Mrs. Smith, Amanda's own aunt. She knew why Ruth had come. She nodded at the woman who waved at her. "Come in." And Ruth went in. When she took off her sneakers and entered the house, she saw a boy and a girl at the table. They were a brother and sister, both 12 years old. They were holding hands and looking intensely at Ruth. "Hello," they said at the same time, looking at Ruth. Ruth sat down on the chair offered by Miss Smith. "Hi," she could barely say. "Are you Mom's best friend? She told me a lot about you and your father, too. Did you come just to meet us? Mom told me before she left that you were coming," the girl said quietly. Ruth looked at Amanda's children. God, how much they look like Ethan. When Ruth introduced her best friend to her favorite young man, one thing she didn't know was that Amanda was the one Ethan had left for Ruth. He was dating Amanda, and the girl loved him very much. But the heart can't help it, it's true. Ethan met Ruth and instantly fell in love with her, and he honestly admitted this to Amanda. He did not want to deceive her. They broke up, and Ethan started dating Ruth. But Ethan didn't know that Amanda was already pregnant by him when they broke up. Nor did Amanda herself know this. She found out before Ruth decided to introduce her to her boyfriend. Amanda thought she could tell Ethan about the pregnancy. But when she saw that Ethan was in love with her friend, she realized that she couldn't do it, and she decided that she would never tell Ruth that she was in love with Ethan too, and that she was pregnant by him. And Ethan did not tell his lover that Amanda was his girlfriend before her. And Amanda left everything and went to the village. She decided to keep the baby. She told everything to her aunt, crying, sobbing. Her aunt supported her. She sheltered her. And after a while, Amanda gave birth to twins, Michael and Mary. No one knew who the father of her children was. Only Miss Smith and Margaret knew, but they did not tell anyone. And Amanda had no intention of returning to the city. She thought she would stay in the village with her children forever. Amanda hoped her friend would be happy with Ethan. She knew they were married. Ruth called her to the wedding, but Amanda did not come. Amanda hoped she would never have to see the happily married couple. She loved her best friend, but so did her husband. Seeing them together was very hard. 5 years later, however, Ruth called her and told her about her separation from her husband. She was in such a terrible state, sobbing and screaming into the phone, that Amanda could not leave her in distress. She returned to town, leaving her children with her aunt. So she stayed in town, visiting her children all the time, and after she set up her business, she started giving her aunt money and raising money for her children's future. Everything was fine until Amanda began to feel ill, and she found out about her illness. She did not make a desperate attempt to save her life at any cost. She didn't think it was worth it. She simply took care of her children's future, arranged everything she had on them, and left a letter for her best friend to at least tell her everything about everything in it. Ruth looked at her children. They were waiting for her to answer the question. At last, Ruth was able to utter, "I didn't come just to meet you. I've come to take you with me and introduce you to your father, only if you want me to." The boy and girl looked at each other. They looked at each other for a while as they continued to hold hands. And then the girl said, "Yes, we want to." A week later, Ruth was already home with Michael and Mary. She picked up the essentials of their belongings. The sister and brother were acting very wary. They were a little afraid of the moment when they would have to meet their father, and Ruth didn't know if she could find Ethan at all. He had left for another city after they separated. They never called or met again. Maybe he didn't have that phone number anymore. But she decided that there was no time to waste. She dialed his number. She heard beeps. At least the number was available. But who would pick up the phone? "Hello?" It was Ethan's voice. Ruth was silent, and Ethan was silent, and then he said, "I didn't delete your number. I know it's you, Ruth." Ruth blushed and immediately asked him, "Why didn't you ever tell me you were dating Amanda?" Ethan sighed. "You know, I wanted to tell you right away, the moment you introduced us back then in the park. But Amanda made it clear to me that she didn't want me to tell you, because she didn't tell you either. If you're asking me that after all these years, you must have just found out about it. Amanda did tell you about it." "Amanda's gone." Ethan fell silent. After a minute, he said, "That's too bad. I'm sorry." "She left me a letter in which she told me everything, and you must urgently come to me because there is someone I must introduce you to." "Introduce me? Introduce me to whom? I do not understand anything." Ethan was confused. "I have to introduce you to your children." 2 years passed. Ethan and Ruth got married again. All this time, they both continued to love each other, and once again, they could not resist their feelings. Michael and Mary lived with them, of course. Ethan could not believe that Amanda had hidden the truth from him and that she had hidden the children from him for so many years. But he forgave her after so many years. Amanda, just like the first time, gave Ethan and Ruth a chance to be happy. The first time, she simply stepped aside, allowing the loving hearts to be together. And the second time, She reunited them and entrusted them with her children, whom she loved more than anything else in the world.